Imagine a force, unseen yet powerful, shaping outcomes with effortless grace. This is not mere idleness, but a sophisticated form of engagement. The wisdom of Wu Wei, therefore, is not a call to passivity, but to a profound reevaluation of how we engage with our lives, our work, and the world. It invites us to ask, where am I forcing? Where am I resisting the natural flow? And how might I act or refrain from acting in a way that brings greater harmony, effectiveness, and peace? The answer, perhaps, lies in the intelligent stillness from which true action springs. The universe operates on principles of flow, not perpetual force. Observe nature. The tree grows without conscious striving, yet it thrives. The river carves canyons, not through brute strength but persistence and path. We are often taught to push harder, to exert more control. But what if this very effort becomes the source of our friction? The wisdom of Wu Wei invites a different kind of intelligence. It means non-doing, or more accurately, effortless action. Acting in harmony with the natural way, the Tao. Not forcing outcomes, but allowing them to unfold appropriately. Consider the futility of pushing against an immovable, natural current. Imagine a sailor using the wind, not fighting against it. This is the essence: intelligent, responsive, and adaptive action. It is about recognizing the optimal moment for minimal intervention. This isn't about weakness, but a deep understanding of leverage. Wu Wei avoids needless friction, burnout, and wasted energy. It is the subtle art of letting things happen naturally. Consider the water. It yields, yet it overcomes all. This is not about resignation, but active, patient observation. Waiting for the right conditions, the kairos or opportune moment. It is the wisdom of the gardener, not the engineer. What if true strength lies not in relentless effort, but in yielding? Knowing when to act, when to wait, when to withdraw. This challenges our modern obsession with constant, visible activity. Could doing less actually achieve significantly more with less stress? Wu Wei is the dance of spontaneity, grounded in deep awareness. It requires trust in oneself and the processes of life. This isn't about neglecting duties, but performing them with ease, freeing energy from internal conflict and unnecessary resistance. Wu Wei taps into an intuitive knowing, beyond mere logic. It's about aligning personal will with the universal will, the Tao. The greatest effects often arise from the most subtle causes. A hidden wisdom suggests that sometimes non-action is the key. This ancient wisdom offers a path to greater effectiveness and peace. Wu Wei, a central concept in Taoism, often translated as non-action or effortless action, invites us to reconsider our relationship with effort and outcome. It doesn't mean to be lazy or passive, but rather to act in a way that is spontaneous, natural, and in accordance with the underlying flow of life, the Tao. It's the art of achieving more by apparently doing less, avoiding unnecessary force, internal struggle, or contrived interventions. The Tao Te Ching, attributed to Lao Tzu, is a primary source for understanding Wu Wei. It speaks of the Tao as the natural order of the universe, an effortless way things are. Wu Wei is the human expression of this cosmic principle, the wisdom of letting go of ego-driven striving and instead aligning with this inherent, intelligent rhythm. This alignment isn't about giving up, but about finding the most effective and least resistant path. Consider the nature of water, a recurring metaphor in Taoist thought. Water is soft and yielding, yet it can wear away the hardest stone. It does not resist obstacles but flows around them, always seeking the lowest ground, effortlessly finding its way. Wu Wei encourages us to cultivate this water-like quality in our actions, to be adaptable, persistent in our gentleness, and to find power in yielding rather than confronting with rigid force. Wu Wei is not about the absence of action, but the absence of anxious, forceful, or self-conscious effort. It's action that arises spontaneously from a deep, intuitive connection to the situation. Think of a master craftsman. Their movements are fluid, precise, and seemingly effortless, born from years of practice that has made the skill an extension of their being. They don't overthink. They simply do, in perfect harmony with their tools and material. This contrasts sharply with the mindset that values constant hustle and aggressive pursuit of goals. Such striving often creates internal resistance and external friction. We exhaust ourselves trying to bend reality to our will, rather than understanding and working with its inherent tendencies. Wu Wei suggests that this forceful approach is often counterproductive, leading to burnout and less than optimal results, like swimming against a strong current. Wu Wei is about going with the grain. Imagine a woodworker carefully observing the grain of the wood before making a cut. By understanding and respecting the wood's nature, the cut is clean and easy. Cutting against the grain requires much more force and often results in a rough, unsatisfactory finish. In life, the grain represents the natural tendencies, the underlying currents, and the path of least resistance that leads to harmonious outcomes. One of the key benefits of practicing Wu Wei is a reduction in stress and anxiety. When we cease to battle against ourselves and the world, a sense of calm and ease can emerge. By trusting the natural unfolding of events and our intuitive responses, we conserve mental and emotional energy. This doesn't mean problems disappear, but our approach to them becomes less fraught with tension and more imbued with clarity and effectiveness. Cultivating Wu Wei involves developing keen observation skills, becoming more aware of the subtle energies and patterns around us and within us. It requires patience, resisting the urge to act prematurely or impulsively. It also involves letting go of rigid expectations, of the need to control everything, and of the attachment to specific outcomes. This creates space for more creative and fitting solutions to arise. It is crucial to understand that Wu Wei is not apathy or irresponsibility. It is not an excuse for inaction when action is clearly needed. Rather, it's about the quality of action. When faced with a challenge, the Wu Wei approach involves first observing, understanding the dynamics at play, and then acting decisively and appropriately, using the minimum force necessary, like a skilled martial artist who redirects an opponent's energy rather than meeting force with force. An ancient principle whispers of power found in apparent stillness. In leadership, Wu Wei can manifest as empowering others rather than micromanaging. A leader practicing Wu Wei creates an environment where individuals can flourish according to their natural talents, guiding rather than dictating. They trust their team, intervene only when necessary, and allow solutions to emerge organically from the collective intelligence, much like a wise ruler who governs so lightly the people barely know they are there. In personal relationships, Wu Wei encourages listening more than speaking, understanding rather than imposing one's views. It means allowing others the space to be themselves, without trying to change or control them. This fosters deeper connection and mutual respect, as interactions become less about conflict or agenda and more about genuine presence and acceptance. Harmony arises not from forced agreement, but from allowing differences to coexist. The practice of mindfulness and meditation can be pathways to cultivating Wu Wei. By observing our thoughts and impulses without judgment, we begin to disentangle ourselves from habitual, reactive patterns. This inner stillness allows us to perceive more clearly the Tao or natural flow in any given situation, and to act from a place of centeredness rather than agitation. We learn to respond rather than react. Wu Wei is deeply connected to the concept of Zuren, often translated as naturalness or spontaneity. It means things being as they are of their own accord. When we act in accordance with Zuren, our actions are authentic and unforced. We are not trying to be something we are not, nor are we trying to make a situation something it isn't. This authenticity is a hallmark of effortless action. Think of learning a new skill, like riding a bicycle or playing a musical instrument. Initially, there's conscious effort, awkwardness, and much doing. But with practice, the actions become smoother, more intuitive until one day, you perform without thinking with effortless grace. This transition from conscious striving to unconscious competence mirrors the spirit of Wu Wei. The skill has become integrated, part of your natural way of being. One misconception is that Wu Wei means avoiding challenges or difficult tasks. On the contrary, it equips us to handle them more effectively. Instead of charging headlong with brute force, one practicing Wu Wei will assess the situation, identify leverage points, and act precisely when and where it will have the most impact with the least expenditure of energy, much like a seasoned strategist. Wu Wei encourages humility. It acknowledges that our individual will is part of a much larger, intricate web of causes and effects. By letting go of the illusion of complete control, we become more open to unforeseen possibilities and synchronicities. Sometimes, the best solutions emerge when we step back and allow space for the inherent intelligence of the system, or the Tao, to operate. In creative pursuits, Wu Wei is the state of flow, where the artist is so absorbed in the process that self-consciousness disappears. Ideas and expressions emerge organically, not forced by the ego but channeled through the individual. The work seems to create itself. This is action without striving, where the doer and the doing become one, a direct manifestation of effortless action. Applying Wu Wei in daily life might start with simple acts of pausing before reacting, especially in stressful situations. Taking a moment to observe our internal state and the external circumstances can reveal a more skillful response than an immediate, habitual one. It's about cultivating an inner space from which considered, harmonious action can arise. This pause is not inaction, it is intelligent preparation. The wisdom of Wu Wei is not about achieving a state of perpetual inaction, but about transforming the nature of our action. It's about shifting from effortful struggle to effortless flow, from anxious control to calm responsiveness, from ego-driven agendas to alignment with the natural order. This shift can lead to greater effectiveness, deeper peace, and a more harmonious existence with ourselves and the world around us. Is it passivity, or is it profound, intelligent alignment? Paradoxically, the highest form of activity can sometimes appear as non-activity. A wise leader might achieve great things by subtle influence rather than overt command. A skilled negotiator might resolve conflict by creating space for understanding, not by forceful argument. This is the intelligent economy of Wu Wei, maximum effect through minimal, precisely aligned effort. It is the quiet power that moves mountains. The Tao Te Ching says, "The Tao does nothing, yet nothing is left undone." This doesn't mean the Tao is idle. It means its action is so natural, so perfectly aligned with the essence of things, that it doesn't appear as doing in the human sense of effortful intervention. It is the underlying principle that allows all things to manifest and follow their course spontaneously, the ultimate expression of Wu Wei. To practice Wu Wei is to cultivate an inner emptiness, not in the sense of a void, but as an openness, a receptivity. Like an empty cup, one must be empty of preconceived notions, egoic agendas, and anxieties to be filled with the wisdom of the Tao, to perceive clearly the natural flow. This emptiness is the fertile ground from which spontaneous and appropriate action arises. Resisting change is a common source of suffering and wasted energy. Wu Wei teaches acceptance of change as a fundamental aspect of the Tao. Like a tree that bends in the wind rather than breaking, we can learn to adapt to life's inevitable shifts with flexibility and grace. This doesn't mean passive resignation to negative circumstances, but rather intelligently navigating change by aligning with its direction and force. The concept of letting go is central to Wu Wei. This can mean letting go of control, letting go of attachment to outcomes, letting go of past grievances, or letting go of the need to always be right. This act of release is not one of weakness, but of profound strength and wisdom. It frees up enormous amounts of energy that were previously bound in resistance and tension. In the context of problem solving, Wu Wei encourages us not to immediately rush in with solutions, but to first deeply understand the nature of the problem. Sometimes, problems resolve themselves if left alone, or the right solution becomes apparent only after a period of patient observation. Action taken prematurely or from a place of anxiety can often exacerbate the issue or create new ones. Wu Wei is not about predicting the future or imposing a rigid plan, but about being fully present and responsive in the moment. The Tao is ever-changing, and our actions must be fluid and adaptable. A fixed plan can become a prison if circumstances change. True effectiveness comes from responding intelligently to what is, rather than what we preconceived or wished would be. Consider the sage or wise person as depicted in Taoist texts. They often seem to do very little, yet accomplish much. Their power lies not in overt displays of force, but in their profound understanding of human nature and the workings of the Tao. They influence by example, by their very being, and by subtle interventions that ripple outwards, creating harmony with minimal apparent effort. The efficiency of Wu Wei can be seen in natural ecosystems. Each element plays its part without conscious striving, and the whole system functions in a complex, self-regulating harmony. There is no central controller, yet there is order and balance. This natural, systemic intelligence is what Wu Wei seeks to emulate in human affairs, moving from forced, mechanical order to organic, emergent harmony. Wu Wei teaches us to trust our intuition. Often, our deepest knowing comes not from logical analysis alone, but from a subtler, inner sense of what is right and appropriate. Cultivating stillness and self-awareness allows this intuitive voice to be heard more clearly. Acting from this place of inner guidance is a key aspect of effortless action, as it aligns us with a deeper wisdom. The paradox of action through inaction, a concept worth exploring deeply. It is important to differentiate Wu Wei from mere procrastination or avoidance. Procrastination often stems from fear, overwhelm, or lack of clarity, and usually leads to more stress. Wu Wei, however, involves conscious, patient waiting for the opportune moment, or choosing not to act because inaction is genuinely the most skillful response. It is an active, aware non-doing, not a passive evasion. Embracing Wu Wei can lead to a profound sense of freedom. Freedom from the constant pressure to perform, freedom from the anxiety of trying to control uncontrollable outcomes, and freedom from the exhaustion of swimming against the current. It is the freedom that comes from aligning with a power greater than oneself, the natural intelligence of the Tao, and trusting its unfolding. The ancient texts compare the Tao to an empty vessel. It is used but never exhausted. Similarly, action aligned with Wu Wei draws upon an inexhaustible source, because it does not rely solely on personal, finite energy but taps into the natural flow. It can be sustained without burnout. It is action that renews rather than depletes. Wu Wei involves a shift in perspective from seeing oneself as a solitary agent battling the world, to seeing oneself as an integral part of a larger, interconnected whole. From this perspective, force becomes less relevant, and harmony becomes the guiding principle. Actions are then chosen not just for personal gain, but for their contribution to the overall balance and well-being of the system. In communication, Wu Wei can mean speaking the truth simply and gently, without aggression or manipulation. It is about finding the right words at the right time, delivered in the right way, to be truly heard. Often, less is more. A few well-chosen words spoken from a place of calm authenticity can have far more impact than a barrage of forceful rhetoric. The challenge lies in unlearning our deeply ingrained habits of striving and control. This requires conscious effort, paradoxically, to cultivate effortlessness. It involves regular self-reflection, a willingness to experiment with non-doing in small ways, and the patience to observe the results. It's a gradual path of reattuning ourselves to a more natural way of being and acting. Wu Wei is not about achieving a specific outcome at all costs. Rather, it's about engaging with the process in the most harmonious and effective way possible, and accepting that the outcome will be what it will be, shaped by many factors beyond our direct control. This detachment from a fixed result reduces anxiety and opens us to learning from whatever unfolds. The highest rulers, according to Lao Tzu, are those whose existence is barely noticed by the people. They govern so subtly, so in tune with the natural needs and rhythms of society, that things run smoothly without apparent intervention. This is Wu Wei in governance, facilitating the natural order rather than imposing an artificial one. This principle can be applied to self-governance too. Instead of constantly berating ourselves or forcing ourselves into rigid disciplines through sheer willpower, we can cultivate inner harmony. By understanding our own nature, our strengths and weaknesses, we can guide ourselves more gently and effectively towards our goals, working with our inclinations rather than against them. Wu Wei is the art of sailing, not rowing against the current. The sailor doesn't create the wind but skillfully uses its power. They adjust their sails, rudder, and course in response to the changing conditions, achieving their destination with grace and efficiency by cooperating with forces larger than themselves. This is the essence of intelligent, effortless action. Imagine the strain of constant doing, the tension it inevitably builds. When we force things, we often meet resistance, both internally and externally. This resistance consumes energy and creates stress. Wu Wei suggests that if we encounter strong resistance, it might be a sign to pause, reassess, and look for a different approach, one that flows more naturally with the situation, rather than trying to batter down the door. The quiet mind is essential for Wu Wei. A mind cluttered with anxieties, plans, and judgments cannot easily perceive the subtle currents of the Tao or respond with spontaneous wisdom. Practices that calm and clear the mind, like meditation or spending time in nature, help create the inner conditions from which effortless action can arise. Stillness allows for true seeing. Wu Wei isn't about achieving a permanent state of blissful inaction. Life is dynamic and requires engagement. Wu Wei is about the quality of that engagement, an engagement that is intelligent, timely, proportionate, and aligned with the natural unfolding of things. It is being fully alive and responsive to each moment, without the burden of unnecessary internal struggle. Trust is a foundational element of Wu Wei. Trust in the Tao, trust in the natural processes of life, and trust in one's own intuitive wisdom. This trust allows us to let go of the need for constant control and to act with greater ease and confidence, knowing that we are supported by and aligned with something larger than our individual ego. One practical way to begin exploring Wu Wei is to identify areas in your life where you feel the most resistance or are expending excessive effort for diminishing returns. Then, consciously experiment with stepping back, observing and allowing things to unfold for a period, or trying a gentler, more indirect approach. Note the results, both external and internal. The action of non-action can also mean refraining from interference. Sometimes, the wisest thing to do in a complex situation, especially involving other people's processes or problems, is to not meddle, to allow them the space to find their own solutions, or for the situation to naturally resolve. Unsolicited or ill-timed intervention can often disrupt natural healing or growth. Wu Wei is not a technique to be mechanically applied, but a state of being to be cultivated. It arises from a deep understanding of oneself and the interconnectedness of all things. As our inner landscape becomes more calm, clear, and attuned to the Tao, our outer actions naturally become more effortless, appropriate, and effective. This ancient wisdom challenges the modern glorification of busyness as a measure of worth or productivity. Wu Wei suggests that true productivity is not about how much we do, but how effectively and harmoniously we act. Stillness, reflection, and patient observation can be far more productive in the long run than frantic, unaligned activity. The energy saved by not forcing things, by not engaging in needless internal or external conflict, becomes available for more creative and joyful pursuits. Wu Wei is not about depletion, but about conservation and optimal use of our life force, leading to a richer, more fulfilling experience of life. Wu Wei is ultimately about living in attunement with the deepest truths of existence. It is recognizing that we are part of a vast, intelligent, and self-regulating universe, and that our greatest power and peace come from aligning ourselves with its inherent wisdom, its Tao. This alignment is not a passive surrender, but an active, conscious, and joyful participation. Now envision release, a surrender to an underlying, wiser rhythm. The path of Wu Wei is a journey of self-discovery and refinement. It asks us to observe our impulses, question our habitual responses, and cultivate a deeper sensitivity to the subtle cues of life. It is a lifelong practice of learning to dance with the Tao, rather than wrestle with it, finding grace in action and stillness. When we attempt to control every detail, we often create more complexity and stress than we resolve. Wu Wei suggests trusting the process, allowing for organic development, and intervening only when truly necessary and with minimal force. This applies to projects, relationships, and personal growth. Letting things ripen naturally often yields the best fruit. True strength, from a Wu Wei perspective, is not about dominance or aggression, but about resilience, adaptability, and inner coherence. Like bamboo that bends in the storm and springs back, or water that finds its way around any obstacle, this strength is flexible and enduring, sourced from alignment with nature rather than opposition to it. The Taoist concept of Pu, the uncarved block, relates to Wu Wei. It represents the original, natural state of things, full of potential. Wu Wei involves returning to this simplicity and authenticity, acting from our true nature without the interference of excessive conditioning or artificial constructs. Action from this uncarved state is spontaneous and powerful. In moments of indecision or confusion, practicing Wu Wei might mean simply doing nothing for a while, allowing clarity to emerge from stillness. Rushing into action when uncertain often leads to mistakes. Patiently waiting for the mud to settle allows the right path to become visible, guiding action that is clear, confident, and effective. Wu Wei is not a fixed set of rules, but an adaptable wisdom that responds to the unique contours of each moment. What constitutes effortless action will vary greatly depending on the context and the individual. The key is the underlying principle of aligning with the natural flow, minimizing internal resistance, and acting with awareness and spontaneity. By embracing Wu Wei, we can transform our experience of life from a constant struggle into a graceful dance. It is a profound invitation to find power in yielding, wisdom in stillness, and extraordinary effectiveness in what appears, to the untrained eye, as doing nothing. This is the subtle mastery offered by this ancient insight. The fruits of Wu Wei are not just external achievements, but also deep inner peace, reduced anxiety, and a greater sense of connection to life. When we act in harmony with the Tao, our actions are supported by the universe, and we experience a profound sense of rightness and ease, even amidst challenges. This inner state is perhaps its greatest reward. So Wu Wei is not about becoming inert or disengaged from the world. It is about engaging in a smarter, more sustainable, and ultimately more powerful way. It's about discerning the subtle leverage points where minimal effort yields maximal, harmonious results, and having the wisdom and patience to act, or not act, accordingly. This is the art of effective living. In summary, Wu Wei teaches us the wisdom of effortless action, aligning with the natural flow, the Tao, acting spontaneously yet appropriately, avoiding unnecessary force, and cultivating inner stillness to perceive the right course. It's about recognizing that true power often lies not in aggressive striving, but in intelligent, responsive, and harmonious participation in the unfolding of life. It is the subtle art of achieving everything by doing nothing that is contrary to nature.